The strangest day of my life. I've never been scared. Fear never truly reached my heart. And knowing my job, you'd understand why. But what happened to me is indescribable. I'm responsible for the permanent retirement of a certain type of person. Yeah, criminals. Those sentenced to death. Exactly. I work as an executioner. Well, technically, there's only one designated executioner in the US. He is the one who carries out the death sentence, but he has a team of assistants who train under him. I'm the lead assistant, and I carry out the full procedure when he's absent. Because of my job, I go to many prisons to execute murderers and criminals. I've retired a lot of people. I've given people relief from their evil and peace to the hearts of the victims' families. I'm normal, like anyone else, but in the beginning, I was scared of their appearances. Sometimes, the sight of them in the electric chair would haunt me day and night. But over time, I got used to the job. Each of these criminals came under my care. I saw their looks before they died. Sometimes, I felt a pang of weakness, but I'd steel my heart. I told myself, these are criminals who hurt people and society. They truly deserve it. My name is Mike. I'm 35, married, with a young family. I live in Montana. One day, I got a call from the head warden. He asked me to come early. It was urgent because there was a dangerous criminal on death row. I packed my gear for the assignment, drove there, and when I arrived, I felt something strange and unsettling in the prison. It felt weird and unnatural. Curiosity got the better of me, and I asked one of the guards what was going on. He said frankly, "We've got a real piece of work in here. A sorcerer. A seriously dangerous one. Does magic. Summons evil spirit. I heard he was into some dark, twisted stuff. Black magic." I asked him, "And they arrested him for that?" He said, "No, it's worse. Much worse." He leaned closer and whispered, "He was doing something far more horrific. He was kidnapping young virgin girls around 5 to 10 years old and slaughtering them as sacrifices to some evil spirit king, preserve us. When they caught him, they found about 18 bodies. Parts of them were preserved in his freezer, and jars of their blood. He'd written strange things on his walls with the blood. The story gripped me until I was shocked to hear him say, "You know the judge who sentenced this sorcerer to death? He died. Him, his wife, and his son." As soon as I heard that, I said, "How did they die?" He said, "A huge fire broke out in their house." He was about to give details, When we were surprised by the warden's arrival, the warden greeted us and took me to his office. He ordered food for me and said, "You must be tired and hungry after your trip. I'm starving too. How about we eat together?" I said, "Of course, sir." The food arrived, and we started talking while we ate. I couldn't stop thinking about this sorcerer. Mid-conversation, I asked the warden, "What are the charges against the guy being executed today?" I was shocked when he said, "This guy, sir, we caught him with the bodies of little girls." I heard the words, and the teacup in my hand fell to the floor. I said, "You mean that charlatan sorcerer being executed today?" He laughed and said, "You scared or something?" He called the guard outside and said, "Come quickly, clean up this teacup." Then he took me outside. He said, "What's wrong? Harden your heart, man. You don't believe in that superstitious nonsense, do you?" I said, "Sir, they just said the judge who sentenced him died. His wife and son, too." He said, "Man, that was just an accident. Don't be scared. Harden your heart. Go to your room now and rest so you're ready at dawn tomorrow to carry out the sentence." I didn't sleep all night. At dawn the next day, we got up early. We were going to carry out the execution. As we approached his cell, I felt a strange heat in the air. When we got there, the warden called the guard on duty. "Open the cell, son." As soon as it opened, I saw a terrifying-looking man. His hair was long and nasty. He had a long beard, wide eyes, and he smelled like death and decay. The strange thing was, he was laughing and saying to us, "You finally arrived. What took you so long?" Amid our astonishment at his words, we took him. He walked with us calmly. Then, suddenly, he looked at me. His eyes glinted, and he said, "How are you doing, Mr. Mike?" I heard him, and I felt like I'd been electrocuted. My joints went weak. How did he know my name? I was terrified when he said that. I felt my heart clench. We reached the execution chamber. The priest, Father Robert, kept talking, telling the criminal to say his last words, but the sorcerer just looked at him and laughed. Father Robert repeated, "Say your last words, my son." The charlatan sorcerer looked at him, laughed mockingly, and said, "The condemned gets a last request, right?" Father Robert said, "Yes, son." The sorcerer replied, "Well, my request is to remain seated on the electric chair for 2 full days. No creature is to enter or remove me. The faces of everyone present who heard this request changed. Why this request? He said. That's my request. To hang for 2 days. The warden responded, Fine. Your request is granted. I moved with heavy steps towards him. I was going to put the black cloth hood over his head when he surprised me by saying, No, I don't want that, Mr. Mike. You keep it. He looked at me with a gaze where his eyes turned white. He looked horrifying. I put the noose around his neck, and my eyes fell on his back. It had strange, bizarre drawings on it. Just before I pulled the switch, he said, By the way, this won't be the last time you see me. He laughed, a very loud laugh. I quickly activated the electric current once to execute him and send the electricity through his body. I cut the power out of fear of him. One of his eyes had popped out, and his tongue was dangling from his mouth. We quickly left and went outside. I said to the warden, Are you really going to grant his request and leave him on the chair for 2 days? He said, Let him sit on that chair. He tortured so many people. Let him taste some torment. Besides, none of his relatives came or asked about the body. There are no other executions scheduled for the next 2 days. Leave him there. I was hearing the warden's words, but my mind and thoughts weren't with him. The sorcerer's words, This won't be the last time you see me, echoed in my ears. After about 10 minutes, we got to the room I was staying in. I gathered my bags and my things and left. As I was entering my house, I felt the same heat I felt entering the charlatan's cell. I tried to forget what happened. I went in, greeted my wife, and asked about my son. She said he'd gone to sleep. My wife said, What's wrong? Your face looks different. I told her everything that happened from beginning to end. Her face changed, and she was scared. Then she said, trying to calm me down, Is this your first time executing someone? Get these thoughts out of your head. Change your clothes while I get your food ready. I told her, No, I'm tired from the trip. I need to sleep and rest. But unfortunately, there was no rest. While sleeping, I heard my son screaming at night. I ran to him quickly. What's wrong? What is it, son? He said something unthinkable. Daddy, I dreamed of a man with long hair sitting on the electric chair. There were lots of snakes around him. His eyes were bulging out, and they were glowing really bright. And he was laughing loudly. I heard this from my son, and my body fell apart. I was baffled. How did my son know about this charlatan sorcerer? I tried to justify it to myself, thinking maybe he heard me telling his mother the story and dreamed about him. Took my son to my room and told him not to be afraid of anything. The next morning, I was surprised by my wife calling me in a voice full of panic and terror. She said, "Mike, come quick. There's something strange in the bathroom." I said, "What?" She said, "There's a weird stain on the ceiling. It's red, looks like blood." I ran to see it. There was indeed a blood-like stain. I tried to wipe it, but it was no use. It wouldn't come off. I thought, maybe it's just an old paint stain or something. Trying to rationalize what was happening to myself because my mind couldn't process it all. We'd just gotten over the stain in the bathroom when I heard my wife scream again. I ran to her. What is it?" She said, "Something just rushed past me really fast in the hallway." Fear began to take hold of my wife and son. These must be hallucinations after what you told her, I thought. I wished I hadn't told her what happened. Within minutes, the warden called my phone. He said, "Mike, I have a question for you." I said, "Go ahead, what is it?" He said, "Has anything strange happened to you since yesterday?" I said, "Why do you ask?" He said, "Just checking in on you." I said, "Did something happen to you?" He said, "No, nothing at all." I said, "Well, me too. Nothing's happened." After that, I started to worry for real. What happened to the warden? I was too scared to talk because of my job. I couldn't let anyone know I was scared. If something like this got out about me, I could become the laughingstock of the entire police force. So I decided to stay quiet and not speak. Later, I went into the bathroom and kept staring at that stain. Suddenly, I saw it start to move slowly across the ceiling. Then, suddenly, it was in front of me, on the wall. I quickly opened the bathroom door and ran out. After a few minutes, I composed myself and went back. It was back in its place, but it had grown a little. I ran to the phone and kept calling the warden, but his cell was off. I was sitting there, terrified and scared for my wife and son. Since I hadn't slept all night, I dozed off as soon as my head hit the couch. Suddenly, I got a call from an unknown number. I answered, hearing someone breathing, but it was a terrifying breath. I kept saying, "Hello? Hello? Hello?" But no one answered. Suddenly, a strange voice replied, "Hello, dear. How are you, Mike?" And the call dropped. I kept calling back. It said, "This number is not in service." Curiosity got me. I wanted to know whose number this was. I started to suspect it was a prank someone was playing on me. I called Tom, my cousin who works for the phone company, and gave him the number. He said the number was registered to someone named Jim. But when we checked the records, we found this person had been dead for a while. My heart was really starting to hurt, and my mind wouldn't stop thinking. I was surprised when the warden called my phone, saying, "Come quick, Mike." And then the line went dead. I quickly got in my car. When I got to the prison, I asked for his address and went to the warden's house. I found a crowd of people gathered and police everywhere. I ran inside the house and found the warden dead. He was crouched in a corner of his room, his eyes fixed on the ceiling, wide open, full of terror and horror, as if he'd seen a demon. I looked around the house for anything that could tell me what happened to him. I thought to check the bathroom. The surprise was finding the same red stain I had in my bathroom, right there in his. And I found a note written on paper. "Mike, I'm really sorry. I didn't tell you what was happening to me. Very strange things were happening. Be very careful, Mike. The charlatan is here. I saw him more than once. Please, though warn Father Robert quickly." The warden had written down everything that happened to him. He wrote, "This is what was happening to me. At night, while sleeping, I'd open my eyes and find him standing right in front of me, his eyes glowing strangely. He didn't speak. I'd go into the bathroom and find a blood stain moving, growing bigger every day, little by little, until a strange shape appeared, almost like a human head. At night, I'd feel hot air raising the house temperature drastically. Then I heard a horrible voice saying, 'You're the first one.'" After that, the stain grew very large. The rest of the lines were scribbled and unintelligible. It seemed he was writing this down as it happened. These scribbles were from moments before his death. I ran quickly to Father Robert's place. He was gone, not in his apartment, even though his neighbors confirmed he hadn't left since yesterday. I quickly filed a missing person report so the police would come and break down his door. The surprise nobody expected. We found Father Robert hanging from the ceiling of his room. He'd hanged himself. Strangely, his phone was playing a phrase on repeat. The last words. The last words. My whole body started trembling. I slipped quietly towards the bathroom in Father Robert's apartment, dreading what I expected to find. The same blood stain. But the strange and terrifying thing was, I found written on the mirror, "Welcome, Mike. You're the last one left." And as soon as I read it, it suddenly disappeared. I went home. The first thing I did was go into the bathroom. The stain had grown. As I stood in the bathroom looking at the stain in the mirror, I saw a horrific shape standing behind me. I looked quickly again, and there was nothing there. I said to myself, "No, I have to go see a priest. I didn't have the patience. I went to the first church I found. When I told him, he said, "Look, son, what you're saying makes no sense at all." I swore to him, "I swear, Father, every word I've told you happened." He kept telling me, "Just pray and get closer to God." I left him, feeling like he thought I was crazy. I didn't know what to do then. The words in the note the warden wrote scared me deeply. As soon as I got home, I ran to look at the stain in the bathroom. It had grown, and I had no idea what to do about it. That night, I heard my son scream. I ran and took him in my arms. "What's wrong, son? What is it?" He said, "Daddy, I dreamed of that man again." He was sitting on the electric chair, shaking his head and saying, "Tell your dad there isn't much time left." Then he glared at me really hard, like he was going to devour me. I held my son, trying to get him back to sleep. The next day, I ran to the priest at the church, begging him for help. He said, "Son, I don't know what to tell you, but I'll tell you something. This matter can only be handled by a charlatan like him. Go see what he says. Maybe he can help or be of use to you." I kept asking around until someone directed me to a man named Hazim. I was surprised by the name and asked, "Is that his name?" They said, "No, that's the name of an evil spirit, one of the married evil spirit. He's the one who took that title. That married is the one who helps him with the things he does." I thought, this is who's going to help me? I went to him. When I arrived, I found him living in a very old house with a large door of an ancient style. I barely arrived and was about to knock when the door opened by itself. I saw a long, dark hallway inside. A person was sitting at the end of it with candles lit around him. He said, "Come, Mike." I stood there, afraid to enter. He said, "Come closer. Don't be afraid." As I walked towards him, one question was spinning in my head. How did he know my name? Suddenly, I found the door closing behind me by itself. My body jolted, but I quickly thought I had no choice but to go in and trust in God. I kept walking until I reached him. When I sat before him, I saw incredible things. Dead cats hanging, strange symbols on the walls. It was a very weird place. As soon as I sat down, he said, "What do you want from me?" I told him what happened. He was silent, then said, "Ruba." I said, "What? Who's Ruba?" He said, "He's a king among the evil spirit. He does everything his master commands him, but on the condition that he provides him with virgin girls as sacrifices. He kills them and takes their blood to use in his magic rituals, like his workings. And this Ruba is one of the most dangerous types of evil spirit." Fear and terror showed on my face. I said, "So, what's the solution?" He said, "There's only one solution, no other. The request made to him must be erased and unwritten." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "The body must, without fail, be buried. Only then will Ruba leave it." In shock and amazement, I said, "What do you mean? You mean Ruba is still in the charlatan's body?" He replied with great confidence, "Yes, of course." I got up quickly, thanked him, and ran outside. I went to the prison. I found it almost abandoned. I asked the people there. They said strange things had started appearing inside the facility. Sounds of people screaming in torment. So the officers and guards began moving their work to the second floor and left this place, warning me, "Don't even think about going in there." But unfortunately, I had no other choice. My life was on the line. I entered with heavy steps. The place was completely dark. I turned on my phone's flashlight. I walked step by step, hearing a sound like a dripping faucet and something calling out in a hoarse voice, telling me to go back. But I kept walking, and the closer I got to the room, the more intense the heat became, the same heat I'd felt before, until I reached the room with the electric chair. I entered, terrified, my mind telling me I wouldn't find him, or if I did, he'd surely be decomposing by now. But the surprise was finding him sitting on the chair, exactly as he was, as if the execution had just happened. I approached him step by step to untie the bindings from his hands and remove the electrode from his head to take him down. I barely touched the straps when I heard a tremendous scream. I looked around to find the source, but I was suddenly surprised when his eyes opened and were looking right at me. His eyes were completely white. I was terrified by his appearance. I heard a voice say, "You came for me even here?" And suddenly, the ground beneath me shook. I was still trying to untie him, and the straps wouldn't come off easily. Then a hand emerged from the floor and grabbed my leg. I fell to the ground and struggled to get away from it until I barely broke free and ran outside. I went back to the charlatan and told him everything that happened. He said, "I'll tell you what to do to get rid of Ruba." He got up and brought out a large cloth bundle he had with him. He said, "Take this. It belongs to him. It will protect you from him." I took it and opened it. Inside was a red horn. I said, "What is this?" He said, "This is Ruba's horn. I kept it for this day." I said, "How did you get it?" He said, "That's a long story. The important thing now is to do exactly what I tell you. You need to get a bag of blood and eyes." I said, astonished. The blood is easy. I can get that. But get eyes. What eyes? And from where? I continued. Eyes from animals, maybe? He said, human eyes, because only with them will you see him. And be careful about the freshness of the eyes you get. It dictates how long you'll be able to see him for. I said, where am I supposed to get those from? He said loudly, I don't know. Figure it out. And be careful. You don't have much time. I left him quickly and went to a doctor I knew who worked in the morgue. I went to him and said, I'm here on behalf of Dr. Jack. He wants the things he told you about. I found him saying, you look like you're into black magic, wanting this stuff. I said, I'm not into magic or anything else. For God's sake, I just need this stuff, that's all. He said, because the only people who take things like this are either medical students or those charlatan types into magic and sorcery. And you don't look like the medical type. I got annoyed and said, Sir, I don't have time for a long conversation. Are you going to get the stuff or should I leave? I don't understand what difference it makes to you. Whether it's medicine or sorcery, you're selling it and getting paid either way, he said. Okay, come with me. We went to the morgue. This was my first time in a morgue, opening a body storage fridge. Even though I'm an executioner, I felt a terror there. The light was dim. The smell wasn't great. He said, let's pick you a fresh one. I said, pick what? I'm not here to pick. He went and pulled a body out of a drawer in the morgue fridge and said, this one's fresh, just came in yesterday. He put on gloves, took out the eyes, put them in a bag, and sealed it. He said, here, take it. Anything else? I took them and ran to the charlatan. He said, go to any room in the prison. Make a circle with the blood you have. Place each eye on either side of the circle, left and right. Keep the horn with you at all times. Be careful. As long as you're inside the circle, you'll be protected. Then, keep repeating and say, Sarkanin, Yajur, Fazil. Keep repeating these names. When he appears to you and gets close, stab him quickly from within the circle and drive this horn into his heart. I went back there. I entered, hearing the same terrifying sounds everywhere. I held my nerves together as best I could and entered the room where the sorcerer's body was. I said to myself, it's either they die or I die. I have no other option. God help me. I made a circle with the blood, as he said. I placed the eyes and kept saying, Sarkanan, Yachur, Fasil. Sarkanan, Yajur, Fasil. I saw the circle light up from the center as I chanted. The walls began to shake. A sound rocked the place. Things began to emerge from the walls, like heads and arms, repeating with me, Zar Kanan, Yajur, Fazil. I saw something emerge from the center. Its shape was terrifying enough to make stone scream in horror. It came towards me. As it got closer, I kept repeating the chant, but with each repetition, it weakened, staggered, and screamed. When it got close, I saw its body was covered in hair. Its eyes were red, and it had only one horn. I saw its other horn was broken, presumably the one I had. The one the charlatan gave me and told me to kill him with. This creature kept getting closer and closer to me, staggering. I barely gathered my strength and tried to pull it into the circle. But it grabbed me by the neck and lifted me up, bringing its face close to mine. I struggled with difficulty to break free. I kept repeating the words the charlatan gave me. Zar Kanan, Yajur, Fazil, until I saw it begin to stagger more and weaken more and more. Its hand let go of my neck, and I fell. But in my terrible moment, I fell outside the circle. At that moment, the evil spirit, Ruba, disappeared because I couldn't see him anymore. The eyes were inside the circle, and I was outside. I had to get back inside the circle quickly before he recovered. I ran and jumped back inside it, chanting the charlatan's words. I found Ruba still inside the circle, starting to recover, trying to get up. I quickly went and stabbed him with the horn I had in his chest. I kept repeating loudly, Zar Kanan, Yajur, Fazil, until he fell. His blood began to flow and merge with the blood I'd used to make the circle. It stayed like that for minutes. Then, all the blood drained into the eyes, and suddenly, they disappeared, and everything vanished with them. I ran to the execution chamber, which smelled incredibly foul. I looked towards the electric chair. The charlatan's body had decomposed and was in a state of beginning decay. I quickly got a burlap sack I had prepared, put him in it, went outside, dug a hole, and buried him. I was overjoyed to find everything had returned to normal. I went home and found the stain gone from my bathroom. The heat and the oppressive air were gone. After a couple of days, I went to ask about the charlatan I had visited. They said he'd left the place. He left this message for you. I found a very strangely shaped note. Written on it was, "Thank you, Mike. You did what kings and married evil spirit failed to do. Do not try to ask about me or my whereabouts, for I am not from among humankind. My heart was terrified then, and I decided not to ask. The first thing I decided to do was tell my story to everyone. Wait for me. I have many other terrifying stories. Subscribe to hear more stories.